Touch her where it matters. A Stoic guide to emotional intimacy. Stoic bloom. She won't forget you because of what you gave her. She'll remember what you allowed her to feel in your presence. What if the most unforgettable part of intimacy has nothing to do with your touch and everything to do with your stillness? In this video, we'll uncover what it truly means to touch her where it matters, not through charm or perfection, but by embracing the Stoic art of presence, depth, and emotional clarity. Part 1. What her hesitation really means. She never said it out loud, but you could feel it. The pause in her gaze, the millisecond delay before she smiled, the almost but not quite lean of her body. She seemed present, yet not fully there, like a song with missing notes or a story with chapters left untold. You weren't just seeing a woman, you were seeing the aftermath of promises broken before they were fulfilled. Most men interpret that hesitation as disinterest or moodiness, but a Stoic mind knows better. Hesitation is memory, not rejection. Her pause is not about you, it's about what's been done to her. And before you even speak, she's already sensing what kind of man you are. Not through logic, through nervous system intelligence. Through the radar every woman develops after years of being half heard, half held, half understood. Epictetus once wrote, "We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our thoughts about what happens." For her, the moment she hesitates, her thoughts aren't even conscious. Her body reacts before her mind has a chance to process. It's not hesitation for attention. It's defense from repetition. The repetition of being touched physically, but not emotionally. The repetition of being seen, but not witnessed. And so you, like many, may think you need to impress her, make her laugh, prove your worth. But what she's really testing isn't your style, it's your stillness. Can you sit with her hesitation without filling it? Can you lean into her pause without rushing her out of it? Can you be the one who doesn't confuse space with disinterest? Because when she hesitates, she's not asking to be chased. She's asking to be safe. You won't pass this test by pushing. You'll pass it by staying. Not to fix, not to convince, but to simply be the man who doesn't flinch when she falters. If this part resonates, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who still thinks emotional safety means being nice. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom for more insights that won't teach you tricks, but will guide you back to truth. And remember, Marcus Aurelius would definitely subscribe if he had Wi-Fi in a heartbroken ex. Stoic Bloom. Her hesitation isn't rejection, it's a request for steadiness. Part 2. She doesn't want to be impressed, she wants to be felt. She's not waiting to be dazzled, she's waiting to be recognized. And the tragedy is that most men never notice this. They arrive full of charisma, eager to prove, to perform, to display their value like it's a resume. But she's not scanning for qualifications. She's scanning for resonance. She doesn't care how well you speak. She cares if your presence speaks before you do. She's not impressed by the way you look at it to you. She's moved by whether you see her without trying to reshape her. She's not looking for you to sweep her off her feet. She's looking to see if you'll stay rooted when she stands there uncertain, unsure, raw. Stoicism teaches don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And that's exactly what she's watching for. You don't need to recite lines about presence, respect, or emotional awareness. She'll feel whether those things are real in you or just new words for old games. If you can't feel her depth, she won't trust your lightness. If you skip over her silences, she won't trust your words. If you're more focused on how she makes you feel, she'll know you're not prepared to sit with how she feels. What moves her is not your effort, but your awareness. Not your achievements, but your ability to notice the space between her words and hold it without flinching. Because if you can't hold that, you'll never hold her. Stoic bloom. The ones who impress fade. The ones who feel remain. Part 3. Her distance is a memory, not a rejection. You thought she was pulling away from you, but she was pulling away from history. That subtle shift in tone, that delayed reply, that sudden coolness after warmth. Most men interpret it as disinterest, but it's something older than you, older than this moment. It's not about now, it's about before. She's been taught, in both loud and quiet ways, that closeness comes with cost, that affection demands a performance, that vulnerability will eventually be used against her. So when she senses connection, she doesn't lean in, she calculates. Not because she's cold, but because she remembers what it felt like to be cracked open without anyone strong enough to stay. Seneca wrote, the whole future lies in uncertainty, live immediately. But for her, living immediately isn't always an option. Her nervous system is still waiting for proof that this time closeness won't require her to disappear. She may test you with sarcasm, with silence, with skepticism, not to manipulate, but to measure, to see if you'll tighten when she expands or vanish when she unfolds. And if you react by needing validation, reassurance, or control, you've answered her test. She'll retreat, not out of drama, but out of wisdom, because her body knows what it costs to stay in spaces that don't honor her emotional truth. But if you remain calm, if you don't push, don't explain, don't plead, if you simply stay available, something changes. She may not speak it, but her body will begin to soften, not because she's convinced, but because she senses that your presence doesn't demand anything from her except authenticity. If this part made something click inside you, like a memory you didn't know you carried, go ahead and like the video before the algorithm forgets we exist. Share it with a friend who keeps confusing distance with drama. And if you're still here thinking, damn, I've done this wrong before, welcome, so have we all. That's why we're here. Stoic bloom. Her distance isn't punishment. It's protection waiting for presence. Part 4. You're being tested without realizing. You think she's just being moody, distant, mysterious, but what's really happening is a test. And no, she didn't design it consciously. Her body did. Her nervous system crafted it long before she ever learned your name. You're not being evaluated by your words or your smile. You're being evaluated by your ability to remain. She's not testing your knowledge. She's testing your stability. Can you stay emotionally available when her energy shifts without warning? Can you keep your presence grounded when she goes quiet, unsure, or unfiltered? Because here's the part that most men miss. She's not looking for a flawless man. She's looking for a safe one. In the words of Epictetus, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And that's the hidden truth behind her emotional tests. They're not designed to make you fail. They're designed to show her whether she can finally let go or whether she has to shrink again. So she leans into discomfort, not to provoke you, but to observe you. Will you panic when she pulls away? Will you chase when she turns inward? Will you collapse when she no longer plays the soft, agreeable version of herself? Most men do. They rush, they explain, they perform. And in doing so, they reveal exactly what she fears, that she still has to manage someone else's comfort before her own truth can breathe. But the man who passes her test isn't the one who solves the puzzle. It's the one who refuses to see her depth as a problem to fix. The one who waits, not passively, but patiently. The one who holds space, not because it earns him points, but because it's who he is. Stoic bloom. The test isn't about her, it's about the version of you that shows up when she stops performing. Part 5 on her where she's tired of shrinking. There is a part of her that's never been seen without condition. A part that's raw, unrehearsed, and too sacred to be offered to someone who sees intimacy as a transaction. That part isn't found in her body. It's found in the places where she had to become smaller to survive. It's found in the pauses between her words. The breath she holds when she's about to say something that might make her feel too much. And that's where she wants to be touched. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally, quietly. But most men never reach that place. Not because they're bad, but because they're distracted by the fantasy of who she could be, rather than still enough to honor who she actually is. A woman shrinks herself not for pleasure, but for safety. And when she senses that you are only attracted to the version of her that smiles, agrees, and nods quietly, she'll never offer you the rest. Stoicism reminds us to love only what happens, what was destined, no greater harmony. And that includes loving the parts of her that don't show up polished. The grief, the sarcasm, the moment she says, "I don't know why I feel this way," and means it. When you touch her there with your attention, with your stillness, with your non-reactive breath, you become someone she remembers. Not because you solved her, not because you fixed her, but because you were the first man who didn't ask her to be less in order to stay. She doesn't want to be handled. She wants to be held in silence, in slowness, in presence so grounded that even her chaos begins to settle. If this hit you somewhere below the surface, don't scroll like a philosopher who quotes Marcus Aurelius, but ghosts when conversations get deep. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, share this with someone who's ready to stop shrinking love into performance, and leave a comment if you've ever had to shrink yourself just to stay seen. We notice you. Stoic Bloom. Touch her where she no longer needs to disappear. Part 6, she will retreat if you can't hold it. There comes a moment when she opens. It might be small, barely noticeable. A story about her father, a confession about how she doesn't trust compliments. A shift in her tone that reveals she's not okay, even when she says she is. In that moment, she is no longer testing you. She's inviting you, not to fix, not to explain, but to hold. And here's the irony, most men don't even notice, because they're too focused on what they want her to become, instead of what she's already showing them. When you can't hold her truth, she feels it immediately. Not because she's overly sensitive, but because she's been there before, opened up, only to watch the other person flinch. She remembers the quick change of subject, the forced positivity, the discomfort that filled the room faster than any apology. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid emotion. It teaches us to face it without collapsing. And when she opens her emotional life in front of you, she's not asking for you to do anything. She's watching to see if your presence is spacious enough to let her be seen. And if it's not, she'll retreat, not in anger, in wisdom. She will start sharing less, smiling more, but meaning it less, responding politely but no longer revealing herself. You might still feel physically close, but emotionally you've already lost her, because she's learned something vital. A man who can't hold her intensity will never be a home for her peace. Stoic Bloom. You don't lose her when she leaves. You lose her the moment you stop listening. Part 7, she's not waiting for a hero, just a witness. She doesn't need a savior. She needs a witness. She's not looking for someone to rescue her from the world. She's looking for someone who doesn't become another reason she has to protect herself. You see, most men confuse leadership with control. They think being the man means having all the answers, guiding every step, solving every emotion before it finishes forming. But she doesn't need someone who takes over her story. She needs someone who sits beside her when the story gets hard to tell. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That's the core of being a witness. Not fixing, not reacting, just remaining still enough to feel what she's saying, even when it's messy, uncertain, or emotionally inconvenient. Can you sit with her grief without explaining it away? Can you stay present with her anger without trying to calm her for your own comfort? Can you remain open when her vulnerability doesn't look like softness but survival? Because when she's crying, she's not looking for a solution. She's looking for a signal. Am I still safe here, even like this? And if you start managing your own discomfort more than you're holding her presence, she'll feel it. The man who becomes unforgettable is not the one who leads through her storm. It's the one who stays when the wind picks up and doesn't ask her to make it sunny again just to keep him around. If this part made you pause, that's a good sign. That pause is where presence lives. Share this with someone who needs to unlearn being a fixer and start showing up as a witness. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom so you don't miss the next moment of emotional honesty disguised as a YouTube video. And leave a comment if you've ever been told to be strong when all you wanted was to be held. No advice, no corrections, just a moment of peace in your own damn skin. Stoic Bloom. She doesn't need you to lead. She needs you to not disappear. Part 8. Intimacy lives in the uncomfortable. Real intimacy doesn't happen when everything is going smoothly. It's born in the friction, in the awkward silences, in the moments when emotions don't align. That's where the truth lives, and most importantly, that's where she lives. See, many men claim they want deep connection, but only if it stays easy, agreeable, and affirming. The second things get complicated, when she cries for no logical reason, when she pulls away without warning, when her softness turns to fire, they retreat. Not physically, but emotionally. They go quiet, defensive, dismissive. Suddenly, the man who once said, "You can tell me anything," is no longer available for everything. Stoicism doesn't teach us to numb discomfort. It teaches us to expand our capacity to hold it, to remain stable amid volatility, compassionate without collapsing. The man who understands this doesn't run from her complexity. He recognizes that her most unflattering moments are often the moments where her truth is trying to break through. She may not say it, but when she's emotionally messy, she's watching one thing. Do you flinch? Do you shut down? Do you try to fix it, rush her, or redirect the energy just to feel in control again? If the answer is yes, she'll feel it and pull back. But if the answer is no, if you breathe, stay centered, and allow her discomfort to be exactly what it is, she begins to trust that you're not just here for her highlights. You're here for her humanity. That's intimacy. Not the kind that's lit by candlelight and followed by kisses. The kind that's lit by truth and followed by trust. Stoic Bloom. If you only stay when it's easy, she'll never show you who she really is. Part 9. She remembers who stayed grounded. She doesn't remember every compliment or every romantic gesture, but she never forgets the moment you didn't leave, when you had every emotional excuse to, when her emotions surged, when her voice cracked with rage, when she pushed you away to see if you'd come closer anyway. You didn't fix. You didn't chase, you didn't vanish. You stayed grounded, and that, more than anything else, is what leaves a mark on her memory. Because most people are present until their expectations aren't met. Then they withhold, shut down, use silence as punishment, and she's had enough of that. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." That source, your steadiness, is what holds her more than any hug, any promise, or any poetic phrase. Because let's be honest, anyone can be patient when they're getting what they want. But the man who stays centered when the moment turns unpredictable, that's the man who makes her feel safe without saying a word. And here's what makes that unforgettable. You gave her something she couldn't find in most men: permission to be real without the fear of rejection. You showed her that she didn't have to self-edit in order to remain lovable. If this part stirred something inside you, something quiet but undeniable, don't let it stay unspoken. Hit the like button so the algorithm knows we're still humans, not just highlight reels. Share this video with someone who's tired of being remembered for what they gave, but never for how deeply they stayed. And subscribe to Stoic Bloom if you're ready to become a steady presence in a chaotic world, not just a charming visitor. Stoic Bloom. She never forgets who stayed when she stopped being easy to love. An Saknyan Jupam de Viet Tip Part 10. Her truth doesn't need translation. Just space for Fintonket Kui video, Voitiude touch her where it matters, Nyen. Newen Muon, Em Se Chien Kai Tuanbo Bafan Kong Lai Chamotlan. Part 10. Her truth doesn't need translation. Just space. She's not asking you to understand everything. She's asking you to not shrink when she reveals what's real. Her truth doesn't always come out as a well-worded confession. Sometimes it leaks through silence, through sarcasm, through a sudden tear she quickly wipes away. In those moments, she's not testing your intellect. She's searching for one thing: emotional spaciousness. Not your opinion, not your label, just space. Stoicism is not emotional detachment. It's emotional integrity. It teaches us to hold room for reality as it is without needing to name it or fix it right away. When you give her truth that kind of space, something incredible happens. She stops translating. She stops softening her words to make them digestible, stops dressing her pain in politeness, stops editing her joy, her rage, her confusion, just to keep your approval. And you, without realizing it, become the first man she doesn't have to perform for. This isn't about being emotionally fluent. It's about becoming someone who doesn't interrupt the rawness of truth with the pressure of clarity. She doesn't need you to decode her. She needs you to remain when her story doesn't wrap up neatly in a sentence. Because when she finds that your presence doesn't make her truth feel too much, she begins to trust that her wholeness is safe in your company, not just the parts that make sense, not just the parts that look good, but the parts that never had space before. Stoic Bloom. She doesn't want you to understand her. She wants to stop having to explain herself. Final reflection. Touch her where it matters. So where do you touch a woman in a way that she'll never forget? Not her skin, her silence, not her image, her essence. You touch her in the pause, where she stops pretending and starts wondering if maybe, just maybe, she's finally safe. You reach her in the space where most men retreat, not because you say the right thing, but because you don't run when there's nothing left to fix, prove, or perform. Because here's the truth no one tells you. It's not the intensity of your love she remembers. It's the integrity of your stillness. She remembers the man who didn't make her grief inconvenient, the one who didn't require her joy to be tidy, the one who let her unfold in real time without turning the moment into a project. And yes, that kind of presence is rare, not because it's impossible, but because most men have never been shown how to hold space without expectation. But you're here now, and maybe that means you're ready, not just to impress her, but to meet her, not just to win her attention, but to earn her trust through who you become when no one's watching. If this entire message lit something inside you, something honest, something unpolished, don't just nod and move on. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, not because we promise tricks, but because we guide you toward the kind of presence that never gets forgotten. Like this video if it made you pause in the best way. Share it with a brother, a friend, or even that one man who's still learning that emotional strength doesn't mean staying silent. It means staying open. And leave a comment if you have ever touched someone, not with your hands, but with your steadiness. We're not here to be impressive. We're here to be real. Stoic Bloom, touch her where words fail and presence begins.